Back in 2018, Australia welcomed Prince Harry and Meghan Markle like rock stars, crowds of fans, flowers, tears of joy. 8 years later, over 40,000 Australians signed a petition with one simple request: don't spend our money on these two. The Sussex team's response? They called the petition stupid. And that's how Harry and Meghan's Australian comeback kicked off. Hey everyone, welcome to another South Park-style parody. The Sussexes used to at least manage to land, put on a show, and only then take a hit to their reputation. Not anymore. Their plane to Australia hasn't even taken off yet, and the whole thing is already falling apart. But first things first. So, the Sussex team came right out and said the Australian trip would be private and fully paid out of pocket. But the locals didn't buy it. There'd been way too many of these private visits in the past that somehow ended with local taxpayers footing the bill for security and escorts for these two. So Australians decided to get ahead of it and launched a petition. The message was dead simple. You want a private visit? Welcome, just not on our dime. And weeks before the trip, it had already racked up over 40,000 signatures. Dude, if that petition hits 100,000, the Sussex's worldwide privacy tour ends on a deserted island. And this is where the couple that loves playing champions of ordinary people showed how they actually feel about ordinary people. Instead of a quick statement confirming the trip would be privately funded, their spokesperson went on a full-blown rant. He called the petition disinformation and flat-out called it stupid. And then, the grand finale, he pulled out the most absurd math. 26.5 million Australians didn't sign the petition. So apparently, they're all totally fine with seeing Meghan and paying for this visit with their tax money. Maybe the other 26 million just didn't know about the petition? Well, after that meltdown from the spokesperson, they sure will now. And Australians have good reasons to worry. During the last visit to Colombia, 3,000 military personnel were assigned to protect Harry and Meghan. In Canada, their private visit ended with a security bill that partly landed on taxpayers, and it would be one thing if the host country actually got something out of these visits. But no. Too often, the whole thing looked like an entire country was just being used as a backdrop for another Sussex show. And if we're talking about where all this distrust comes from, you really can't leave out Nigeria. The Sussexes' trip to Nigeria in 2024 started with Meghan announcing that a DNA test showed she was 43% Nigerian. And then a very curious coincidence surfaced. British writer Georgina Lawson had published a memoir years earlier telling the story of her own DNA test, with the exact same 43% Nigerian heritage. Same number, same beautiful story about searching for roots. Just a different person, years earlier. Maybe Miss Meghan will turn out to be 43% Australian too? Shut up, Butters. Wherever they show up, it's automatically her ancestral homeland. But coincidences like that apparently didn't bother anyone. And Meghan flew to Nigeria, where she was welcomed almost like family. Ceremonies with chiefs, gifts, a new name. Harry got the highest honors too. They let him inspect an honor guard, even though he hasn't served the crown in years and has zero right to that kind of ceremony anymore. Then Meghan came home, and Nigeria vanished. Not a single post, not a single mention. Even when she was filming her cooking show for Netflix, not one Nigerian dish, not one Nigerian chef. The country that meant so much to her stopped existing the moment the photo ops and gifts from chiefs ran out. And the Nigerian Air Vice Marshal, who expected, after that lavish reception, that his country would get to host the Invictus Games 2029, he found out Nigeria wasn't even nominated. Well-known journalist Tom Bauer sums it up in one sharp line. Meghan never loved Africa. Apparently, she loved photos from Africa. Dude, Nigeria got Markled. But let's get back to Australia. Meghan's team insisted there were no business interests behind the Australian visit, that Meghan was simply above all that money-grubbing and profit-chasing. And then it came out that trademark applications for As Ever had been quietly filed in Australia across multiple product categories ahead of time, meaning the plans to break into the Australian market had been in the works for a while, and the product list is pretty down to earth. Yoga straps, pet mats, garden shears, bath and shower gels, jewelry, and furniture. So Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's trip to Australia suddenly turned out to have some very ordinary goals. Meanwhile, back home in California, Meghan can't even sell what she's already made. According to press reports, Netflix has been sitting on over $10 million worth of unsold as-ever products. They've even started handing out some of the goodies to employees for free, just to clear out space. So this is a person who can't give her products away for free, but is already planning to sell furniture and yoga straps on the other side of the planet. Sussex-level business logic. Looks like they've decided to flop on every continent. The pet products in that lineup are especially juicy. You'd think, what does Meghan have to do with pet mats? But hold on, everyone, because it turns out Meghan actually does have some training experience. British investigative journalist Tom Bower recently published his book, Betrayal. And there's a very telling scene in it. At a public event, Harry started chatting with some students, Meghan tensed up, gave him a look, and he went quiet mid-sentence. Bower called it puppy training. And Variety backed that right up. Netflix staffers said that in business meetings, whenever Harry started talking, Meghan would touch his arm or his thigh, and he'd obediently go silent. She'd pick up his thought, rephrase it, and carry on as if it were hers. Not a one-off, not a coincidence. This was a practiced move that everyone sitting at the table noticed. Harry opens his mouth. Meghan puts her hand down. Harry closes his mouth. Doesn't that sound like an obedience training manual? All she's got left to do is yell, "Heel, Harry!" And here's the kicker. Bower's book and the Variety piece came out independently of each other and described the exact same thing. Looks like Meghan really does have a polished system for managing her husband, and she doesn't even bother hiding it. Meghan's lawyers, of course, immediately called all of this misogyny, that a strong woman was being criticized simply for showing leadership. But let's call things what they are. A strong woman is not someone who shuts her husband up with a pat on the thigh like she's telling a dog to sit. And that is not what leadership looks like. So how is another faux royal Sussex tour going to end? Most likely the usual way. Pretty photos, big words, and an attempt to cash in on whatever's left of the title and the old royal glow. And it looks like Australia figured that out ahead of time. But will the petition actually save Australians from paying for another Sussex show? Or will Australia end up Markled too? Drop your answers in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one. And as always, Butters waves goodbye with a big smile. Dear viewers, I'm sending you all little air kisses. Nice, happy ones, just for you.